Hello, today we will be discussing a topic for tenants. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, I'm Pete Candelario.
Hi, I'm Jason Bridgeman.
And we want to welcome you to the third episode of the Bridgeman Properties video podcast. So on this video podcast right here today, we are going to talk about a piece that's very important for the tenants. It's actually a document that they get at the beginning of their lease, which is important because at the end of their lease, the property managers are going to be using this document for their security deposit and see how much security deposit they're going to get back, if they're going to get back their whole security deposit or some of their security deposit, depending on how they leave the property at the end of their lease.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I think is overlooked time and time again, but we'll get into that today and discuss exactly what we feel are some of the best parameters and the best practices for any tenant, whether they're moving into a single-family residential apartment, anything of that nature.
All right. So Jason and I realized that the last two podcasts that we did were pretty long. One of them was 39 minutes. The other one was 49 minutes. So we're trying to cut down the content as much as we can. So we're trying to make these podcasts a lot shorter for you. So
right.
This episode 3 again, we're just going to talk about this one document. And the document is actually called the Residential Lease Inventory and Condition Form. And this document is given to a tenant upon their key release, at least in our office, upon their key release. And they have a certain number of days to fill out this document. And this document basically is for them to document the condition of the property as it was given to them.
So a lot of times what happens, and I was guilty of it too, the whole time I was active duty, I would move into an apartment and I would never fill out the form.
Right.
I would get it. I would, I don't know.
You were just happy to be in.
Right. I was happy that I got approved to rent an apartment. And or just based on timelines with work or whatnot.
Right. Overwhelmed with just moving to.
Just never got around to it. And I think every time that I moved out of an apartment, I gave away my deposit. And the reason I gave away my deposit was because the form, just as within our office, after that set number of days, the form's not completed, the form's not turned back into the apartment complex, or in this case, turned back into a property management office, then they just assume you're not going to do it, and they then stick a blank form into your file, obviously that's been date stamped, time stamped, and saying documents have not been returned back to us within the required amount of time. So then you have a blank form sitting in your file.
Saying that the property's perfect.
Says the property had no discrepancies. And I wouldn't say that the property's perfect, but I would say that you've acknowledged the fact that there are no discrepancies at that property. And by you leaving the form blank and you not turning that in, you have relinquished your ability to provide proof that when you got the keys and when you took possession of the property, that it was not there were any discrepancies. So what we tell folks, and what I believe the best practice with this form is, don't move anything in.
Right.
Make this what we would consider to be like the eat the frog. No one likes to do it. Right, eat the frog, do the thing that you like to do the least first, and don't even move anything into your property. The minute I picked up this form, or the minute I got the form, the minute I got my keys, I would go directly to the property.
Start moving stuff in. Right?
Well, I would
normally, right?
Normally, I would.
But you're saying not to.
Well, yeah, I mean, normally I would be moved in within an hour or two,
right,
of having an apartment. So this form was the last thing on my mind. What I would do going forward is I would not move a single thing into the property. I would leave, picking up my keys. I'd go directly to the property, complete the form in detail, and then it's done.
Right.
Because human nature says once you start moving into the property, then you're worried about utilities. You're worried about getting stuff moved in, movers, whatever you've got lined up. this form then is either forgotten or hidden or lost, and it just never gets done.
Yeah.
The bad thing about that being, you may live there 12, 24, 36 months, and minor things are going to break. Things are just going to happen within that property. Then when you go to move out, you have no recourse to go back and say,
That was like that before I moved in.
well, that was like that, because you're going to forget also.
Right. Exactly.
You're going to forget what's going on. You're going to forget that when you moved in, yes, the master bedroom closet door did not close properly. There was a hole wherever.
Right.
So you're going to forget those things. And then this form is designed and was made with the best of intentions to document that condition for yourself, and to document that condition for the property management company and for the landlord.
For the landlord.
Most importantly, between you and the landlord. Property management company is the mediator, the facilitator
between the two, yeah.
of all of those.
So we normally tell the tenants upon our key release, when we do give the keys to the tenants, we provide this form, and we tell them, be as picky as you can be on this form. Document every little scuff, scrape, minor hole, scratch, whatever they see on walls, floors,
Right.
doors, things of that nature. Because once again, this form is the one of the pieces that the property managers actually use when they are itemizing the security deposit at the end of their lease, right? Our property managers, at least, they'll take the before pictures that they took right before a tenant moving in. They'll use those pictures. They'll use this inventory and condition form, and they'll use the after pictures or the move out pictures. And from there, they decide if anything in the property is damaged or over the normal wear and tear, right?
Yeah.
Those are the things that are going to be itemized out of that security deposit. But if it's already put on this form, then the tenant has something.
Well, the good thing that we do here at Bridgeman Property Management, the thing we do here is we require this form to be completed. We require the form to be turned back in. But we also take around 300 photos before that.
Sometimes it's more than that.
Well, depending on the side of the house.
Size of the house.
You know,
right,
we could be
yes.
300, 400,
300
500
minimum,
photos
yeah.
before we even give this form out.
Right.
So a lot of times what we'll see is the form will come back and it'll just be completely littered with accurate data, and then sometimes inaccurate data. The great thing that we have for our owners is we've taken the 100, 200, 300, 400, whatever those photos numbers are, we've taken them.
Right.
So we do have a way to verify the
Right.
documentation.
So it should correlate.
It
right?
should correlate with what's on this form. If that's ever in question, then we would go to the property and verify it. I think the key and the points that we're trying to get across in the video is that complete the form, get it back to your property manager within the allotted number of days, make sure you've initialed it, make sure you've signed it, and then make sure you're getting a copy back signed.
Right.
And every time that I've sat in JP court and I've listened to something pop up on a security deposit issue, from my experiences, and I'm not saying this happens every single time because JP court is a little bit of a roulette system, right? You don't know what the decision of that judge is going to be at that particular point in time. But what I've seen is the judge didn't even want to see the pictures. He didn't want to see the before. He didn't want to see the during. He didn't want to see the after pictures unless we had this form. Mm-hmm. If the property manager didn't have this form, whether it was blank or fully completed, fully executed, if this form wasn't done, the judge didn't even want to see the pictures. So sometimes a tenant will go into the court and say, I've got before pictures and I've got after pictures. And the judge's like, do you have that form? If you don't have that form, then you're kind of,
Right.
You've not followed the set criteria within the Texas Property Code and the lease parameters. You don't have the form. So to protect all parties, you need to really have it done correctly to protect everyone's best interest. And a lot of times tenants don't correlate the fact that you're filling it out today, but it's going to come back to be a crucial document at the end of your lease.
At the end of your lease, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
this form is basically used just to document the condition of the property right now. It actually tells you in the form that you should not be using this for any maintenance items. If there are maintenance items that you notice while you're walking around filling out this form, those maintenance items actually have to be sent in writing to your property manager or on
Yes.
In our case, we have a tenant portal that tenants can go on there and submit the maintenance request. So they should not be putting any maintenance items on this, right? So what happens if we do find maintenance items on here?
Well, if we find, we're going to get maintenance items on it from time to time. We understand that just happens. When you're walking through the property, your human nature is going to say, okay, this is wrong, that's wrong. So sometimes they do get filled out on here. If they do, then someone from our office will typically reach out to them and say, hey, please put in a maintenance request. Again, with trying to make this as short and concise yet as accurate as possible, I think the key points with this, the main factor with this is our company or any company that you lease from, make sure you get the form.
Yeah.
Make sure someone gives you the form. It's
Even the apartments
Right.
have the same form.
6-page. Well,
It's not the same exact
but
form,
same
but-
content.
right.
Same content. So you're looking at a 6-page document when you do a single-family residential lease. If they're using the TAR form, the Texas Association of Realtors, it should be 6 pages. You make sure you get the document when you get your keys. Make sure you complete it, and make sure you initial every page, sign it, date it, and make sure you get it back from your property manager. This form in our case will be uploaded into the tenant portal, so the tenant will have access to it throughout the whole time of their lease.